Welcome to the Big Week in Gaming podcast. And what do you know? It's been a big week in gaming. I'm Intergot for episode 73 for Sunday, the 20th of March, 2022. In this week's show, we'll be discussing the veil is finally lifted on Warner Bros Hogwarts Legacy. Worlds collide with the reveal of wrestling RPG WrestleQuest. And we review Piranha Byte's open world RPG sequel, ELEX II.
Shut up! Bigwig's on the radio! Shut up! It's gaming from the studio!
As always, I'm joined by Mike.
Plot twist, I'm back!
No, not that they could see you there if they're watching the video. And Swinny.
Hello.
How you guys going? Enjoying life? You're very hat. I realize you guys always wear hats. I want to join the hat crew.
You should join the hat crew. Yeah. I do it because my hair looks stupid.
Okay,
Only the
fair.
cool hosts wear hats on this podcast.
Yeah.
And if you want to see more in-depth coverage of us talking about hats, check out our socials at bigwigpod.com or check the description. So we're gonna break the hype news. This is the anti-hype. We need a new segment, Swinny. We said we're gonna cover Chrono Trigger for like the last 6 weeks straight, thereabouts.
We lied.
And we're not covering it, are we?
No. That
We chose not to.
may potentially be next week. Depends on who knows. Maybe some massive news drops, and we're like, okay, we have to push it again. God damn it! But
Well,
one day we will cover Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, and I guess it's also if you are reviewing anything else. I think that's because you're plowing through so many games. So I won't be reviewing any game when we get to what we're playing anytime soon. But and I don't think Mike's going to be reviewing any games. No.
Maybe after 150 hours, I'll review a particular game.
So when's the Elden Ring review, peeps? Come on. You guys have had over 3 weeks.
All right, let's get into the bee's knees.
Get into it.
I'm
Let's
just going to
into
get
it.
into what we're playing.
Spoiler alert. I swear to God, this guy.
Yeah. So Mike, what have you been playing?
All right. So I played a little bit of Gran Turismo 7.
Yeah, very controversial game.
Tell me about it. Let's talk a little bit about that controversy, shall we?
Make sure you tell
mostly-
everyone the backstory, as if they don't know anything.
Okay, let's pretend you don't know anything. So, Gran Turismo came out a few weeks ago, and much like some of the previous titles, specifically, I think we covered this 2 weeks ago when I spoke about it on the show. It actually went back to its roots to a large extent. You know, you start off with practically nothing, your little Toyota Yaris, or whatever other little compact car you can start off with. And you progress your way through championships, and you earn more money, and you get better cars, and life is awesome. And, you know, you feel a sense of accomplishment doing all of that.
Life is awesome.
Yeah, it was fantastic
Life is
for
good,
a couple of weeks
LJ.
until what is it, 2 days ago now, when Polyphony Digital released an update. And in that update, they nuked and nerfed the amount of money you would earn from a whole bunch of races, which, by the way, weren't particularly generous to begin with. They weren't exactly...
super grindy.
They were pretty grindy to begin with. And the reason why I say they're pretty grindy to begin with is because, to put it into perspective, one of the legendary cars that you can get, which is the McLaren F1, that a lot of people want to drive. It's a freaking amazing car in real world, and obviously as a collector, because the whole game's about realistic driving and collecting cars and whatnot. You know, people wanted to get that car. That car is 18.5 million credits from memory. Now,
In a typical play session, how many credits would you get?
it's hard for me to say in a typical
Just
play
ballpark
session,
in
but if
10
you were
minutes or something.
Oh, look, in 10 minutes, I reckon maybe if you get 130, 150, let's say.
150,
maybe.
not 1,000, 150.
I didn't do the grindy races, so I don't know what the best ratio is. Because that's the other thing. There used to be a particular track that people did over and over and over again to be able to get credit to get some of these cars.
So just jumping in
which
with the
they
maths, that's 200 hours then at that run
I could
rate.
probably imagine it's about... I wouldn't be surprised if it's
For that car,
For
there's
that car.
obviously
That's great.
a lot of cars.
This is
There's
like
just
our
one car.
Battlefront
There's
levels.
a ton of cars. Oh, totally. Now, but here's the catch. the game has microtransactions because you can go and you can purchase credits with real money, of course, that you're able to go and do this. Now, don't quote me on this, but when I roughly looked at one of the cars, and I don't think it was even this car, I think it was an even cheaper car. I think it was like $60 or something to purchase one of the cars. Australian, yeah.
Damn.
And it varies depending on the car and stuff that you want. And the problem is, I don't see how realistically playing the game, you can play it long enough to get some of these cars.
I was just saying, I made the mistake of checking out a thread. I think it was on the Gran Turismo subreddit, and there's people defending this by saying, you know how much these cost cars cost in real life? You're not meant to. You're not meant to. You're meant to work for this. You're meant to. It's something to attain. It is so ridiculous. People defending the amount of time that it would take to unlock this without buying the microtransaction.
I'm okay with people saying, because one thing that what's the guy behind Polyphony? Kaz,
forget his
I think it is,
name.
or something like that. You know how they're saying they want it to mirror the real life car prices, but that to me is in terms of the relative difference. So like if a Toyota Yaris is like 1,000 credits, then you know the McLaren F1 is, you know, whatever it is, 100,000 credits, right? Like it's relatively priced correctly. That doesn't excuse at all like the top end being 60 Australian dollars, which is very aggressive.
Look, I can look at proper numbers next time and actually do a full calculation that's a bit more accurate, but it's ridiculous. But I think what is also ridiculous, and I mentioned some of this stuff as well, is some of the payouts and the way the payouts work. So for instance, you're given you're given little reward tickets, like the one that's actually on screen right now. It's a roulette ticket, and I know that I hate to be culturally inappropriate here, but we've spoken about how some of these Japanese games tend to have this roulette/gambling element to it, and I despise it in a game like this.
To be fair, Forza Horizon
also had it as well.
And to be fair, a lot of Western games had like,
and actually a lot of Western games
like,
too.
They almost
in
popularized
fact,
that.
Everyone bloody does it. They probably popularized it more than that.
You have to shout out to Epic. Actually, they removed it from Fortnite. That actually started a chain of other games removing loot boxes.
They can fuck right off. So this is a loot box in a huge. Well, it's a loot box disguised as a roulette ticket. It's the same shit. And you get 1 in 5. You get 5 different things that you could potentially get. And I'm a little bitter because every single thing I ever got was absolutely shit. And you get teased by something that's half decent, and you don't get it. You just get some trash instead, like 2,000 credits that you literally can't do anything with, or a part for a car that you don't give a shit about and you're probably never going to drive. Which in and of itself also introduces a lot of bullshit about being competitive if you have that part and you racing against someone who doesn't, and all sorts of other jazz. Anyway, the one thing that also just kind of actually pissed me right off is they have limited time ability to get certain cars. So you get an invitation to buy certain cars. And here's the funny thing. I started my career and I've got, I don't know, about 100,000 credits or something. Peanuts. Like absolutely peanuts. I can't even buy a shitty secondhand Porsche with that kind of money in the game. And I get an invitation. I get all excited. Like, oh, what's this? What's this? This is so cool. And the invitation is to buy an Aston Martin that was 2.5 mil or something. And it's limited time. But of course, when you're starting off, you don't have anywhere near that amount of money. Like nowhere near that amount of money. I don't even think I could play the game enough to get that money before the invitation expires. But of course, I can go and I can buy 2 million credits from the store with 16 Australian dollars, whatever the hell it is, to buy that limited car, just in case I miss out on it. These practices, maybe on a free-to-play game, maybe on a mobile game, sure, maybe, because they got to get their money somehow. But if I'm paying 125 Australian dollars, because this is a full price game, that's how much these games are. It's a full price game. It's not even like a cheap $60 game or something like
Mike,
that, if you put it that way.
It's not a full game. It's a full price game, but it's not.
It's a full price game. I honestly don't think it's a full game. It's ridiculous. So anyway, I ended up returning my copy. I'm not saying everyone should do that, but I tend to sometimes vote with my wallet. And if I strongly believe in something like this, well, fuck you. I'm not continuing to sponsor. It's a shame because otherwise it was a great game. I enjoyed playing it. But it's bullshit practice. It's so greedy from Sony, because I'm assuming it's a Sony thing, not necessarily a Polyphony digital thing.
Oh, of course,
But
it's the publisher.
yeah.
Did the people at EB say any people were returning it, or
Well, I happened to do it on on the morning after the because you couldn't play the game either, by the way.
and
in
that was a
case you
big
guys are
thing that I
wondering.
wanted
That was
to.
the thing too, yeah.
Yeah, it's DRM for a single player game, which is very common for Xbox, but starting to become more common for PlayStation. And you got to remember as well, Sony very arrogantly published, I think it was like back in 2013, no DRM for single player games. It's just simple as that, like in a tweet, right? And now they're starting to do that, even for PS4 games, because this is a PS4 game as well, right? So it's kind of contradictory to what they're even saying. But it was down for 30 hours.
Yep.
So you couldn't play the game for 30 hours because it's got this DRM as well. So you couldn't even play it offline, like an old version of it. It's ridiculous.
Like, what am I paying $125 for?
It's really bad.
To stare at a message that says I can't play. I never bought the game to play multiplayer. I don't play multiplayer in these kind of games. I have friends that do, but this was a purely single player campaign experience, which by the way is what they advertised it at as well. So I can actually see this going to court in the US as an example. I totally can, especially with the huge backlash. It's sitting at 2.5 out of 10 on Metacritic at the moment, if I'm not
For
mistaken.
user scores, yeah.
For user scores, obviously it's getting review bombed. For whether that's fair or not is a completely different discussion. And I think it actually is fair in this sense, because maybe then they hear the community and start toning back some of this bullshit. But yeah, it pissed me right off. I returned it, and I think at least for a while, if they do fix this, I'll get back into it, no doubt, because it's a fantastic game otherwise. But that's it for me.
But there's no fixing when they've done something like this. They're only ever going to tweak it. They're not going to remove the microtransactions. They make it
Of course not.
more affordable, but it's still going to be ridiculous. It's interesting. They're still they're kind of stuck in the middle of a like Forza Horizon versus iRacing. I don't know if you know iRacing on PC.
Yep.
Yeah, because that is so expensive, iRacing. It's crazy. It literally will cost you hundreds and hundreds of dollars per year to get enough cars and tracks and stuff like that. Because I know a lot of enthusiasts still actually like Gran Turismo. So, but like I'm the same as you. Like unless it's, I can't imagine like the idea, and you got to thank Nintendo for a bit of this. Imagine like a Mario with like littered with microtransactions on the console game. It would piss me off so much. But I'd probably honestly still play it, and same as Zelda. But these games where I'm like, I was really close to getting Gran Turismo 7. I think it would be a really cool game to play after Elden Ring. It's like very big change. And I just can't support this bullshit. Like, I get if, they want to have microtransactions, but I should be able to do most things in the game if I put in like 150 hours. That's my kind of view on the life of it, right? The idea of just like, I'll never be able to get, 10% of the cars unless I buy them. It just pisses me off, right?
Even
And then
if
also
that,
another game that really was the worst offender of this was Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, the remake for Crash Team Racing, where they released it with no microtransactions, had reviews and everything like that all locked in, and then 1 month after release, did a patch and added microtransactions.
Wow.
And I was like, I'll never buy that game ever. Like, F that game.
Shady.
Like, that's
Wow,
bullshit.
that's
So,
shady.
yeah, so it's pretty sad. Like, yeah, a lot of people are bouncing on this game, Gran Turismo 7. So,
It feels like a very un-Sony move. Now, I'm not saying
Yeah, I
they've
agree.
never had any games with microtransactions, and look, I know Gran Turismo Sport was free to play, wasn't it, Mike? Gran Turismo Sport.
No, I paid for
no,
it.
no, that's a full-fledged
Great
game.
game.
That was a full-fledged game. I thought that was
That
free
had
to play.
microtransactions.
It's more
too.
focused on
But they were more fair.
multiplayer.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I'd heard some people saying that comparing Sport to 7. I obviously can't talk to either one of them, but okay, so that wasn't free to play either.
No,
No,
it
that
wasn't,
wasn't
but the
free.
prices of vehicles were way more reasonable. I
Yeah.
think the McLaren that I used as an example was something like 10 times cheaper in terms of credits in the previous title in Sport. So it might have been 1.8 million or something from memory. I forget exactly how much. It was more realistic and attainable, and the actual cost of the cars was cheaper. You could buy a lot of the cars for something like $3-4. I forget exactly. But they
Yeah,
were
no, you're
cheap.
100% right, Mike. And then also the other fact is they did remodel a lot of the cars, but some of them are pretty much straight lifted from Sport, like GT Sport, but they cost 10 times more, like Mike's saying. So people have bought them in GT Sport. They pretty much look like the exact same car. and then you're buying it again and paying 10 times the price. So
That's right. In the next Gran Turismo, where all the cars are NFTs, you'll be able to share them between the different games in the series.
I am so surprised they haven't done that. Honestly, with some of the comments Sony had made before, I think they backtracked on NFTs. I could totally have seen them putting them.
I know
NFTs.
you know what the next thing that's going to happen. They're going to have subscriptions to a car. So instead of paying you look at you, Mike. You know this is. I got the business brain working on this shit. Instead of going $60, that's very horrible, right? Let's just charge you $4.99 for the McLaren F1 per month.
Per month, yeah.
People are gonna buy it, man. People are gonna buy
the car in game.
You know, people will.
Oh my
I can totally see
God.
it happening. I mean, there's jokes
rentals
online
in-game.
about. Yeah, dude, it can totally happen.
Mark my words. Let's come back to this podcast. Let's take this clip
Now,
out.
let's move on to a game that's
completely
literally does the complete
Yeah.
opposite when it comes to consumer friendliness, in so much as it just keeps giving you more and more and more. Elden Ring.
Yeah, we've both been playing
So
this.
we have both been playing it. Dare I say, smashing
This is my
it.
life.
Pretty much, yeah.
Work,
my
family,
girlfriend-
and Elden Ring.
That's it. That's all there is.
How many
in my
hours are you
existence.
into it, Mike?
73,
70.
I think.
Jesus.
And here's the crazy part. I looking at the physical map, because the more you kind of play, the more
Yeah.
it opens the map a bit,
Yeah.
even though there's a
And we should say
Fog
there's
of
going to be
War
no
there.
spoilers. No
spoilers at all.
Yeah. Very minor, light spoilers. If you get a progressive map, but that's pretty common in open world games. But yeah, go on.
Pretty much. But you don't get to see the size of the full map at the start, from what I recall. It's a bit of a
No,
blur
God,
now.
no.
I'm trying to
Yeah,
remember, but
no,
I don't
God,
think you
no.
do. I think it slowly kind of gets bigger,
Yeah.
and you're like, what the hell? How big is this place? I don't know if I've done half of the landmass.
I should
don't
send
know
the
if I have.
screenshot to me. I want to see because there's some
I'll
other
send
stuff
you a
that happens in
screenshot.
it that I was like, oh my God, damn, there's more to this game.
What?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
crazy.
because I reckon I'll send you a screenshot. Just judging by what I have revealed so far, I'm assuming there's nothing else that's going to open up more. If it does, oh my God, it's even
Yeah.
worse. I reckon halfway there. Like, what the hell? It's 70 something out, and that's not a complaint. It's not a complaint
No.
at all, because it's been a freaking awesome 70 hours. Look, some of it might have been idle, and some of them might have been me grinding a particular mob or whatever. But in any case, I think, because we're just talking about Gran Turismo, I just got to reiterate the fact that this game does so much stuff right, and it's so much stuff that is so player friendly, which I know sounds funny for a game like this that's ridiculously hard, that alienates a lot of people originally, because they're like, oh my God, it's too hard, what the fuck, it should have this and this and this. But it does so many things within the type of game that it is so
Yeah.
goddamn well. It's amazing. I love it. It's super cool. And now in the latest patch, they also included, which I know some players weren't as happy with, but I think it's a good addition. Just little things on the map where the NPCs or the merchants are.
Yeah.
Hey, you're eating into 1 Min For The Swin. What are you doing?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Whatever. We had to quickly
Joking.
talk about it. It's a
So
huge update in the last.
This
in
is
the
all
last
part
patch.
of the 1.0.3 update, and that was a really good patch. It was actually a really big patch, big download. But
quest
I think
lines.
everything was very fair in that patch. There was some
Yeah,
stuff that I was
totally.
abusing.
Yeah,
Like,
same.
we won't mention what they are, but there's a couple of things that you're like, look, this game's already hard enough. I'm gonna take advantage of whatever I can. And they pretty much nerfed all of the key things that people were doing.
They did, but they made him fair.
The only thing that pissed me off is, and I won't say who, but there's a boss that they nerfed completely. Like, completely nerfed. And I beat it, and I was, like, struggling so hard. I'm like, oh, this is pissing me off so
Oh,
much.
damn.
I finally beat it, and then, like, 3 days later, their patch comes out, and they nerf that boss. I'm like, damn it, I should have waited.
Son of a.
I don't want to play something that's hard, but I totally agree. Like, I don't at all understand the take that people have that this is the hardest FromSoft game. Like, that is just crazy to me. Like, how's this the hardest FromSoft
not
game?
for me. Definitely not the
There's
hardest.
so
And
many ways that you can, cheese and grind, and it's not like bad grinding. Like, there's spots where it's super intentional that you're meant to farm,
Hmm.
and at a level of, it's not like super late into the game or anything like that. So if you're sort of starting to struggle, it's like, okay, you can go crazy and spend a couple of hours and become like level 80 or something like that. So
they give you that choice. That's the cool thing about the game. It
so many
doesn't
choices in
force
this
you into
game.
anything.
Exactly.
Choice is
exactly.
that's probably the word I was trying to look for. Choice is what this game gives you. It's really, really well done. the abusing a thing is really funny because I was abusing a particular skill, but not. I wouldn't say intentionally abusing it to cheat. It's just naturally you go, oh, but this seems to work really well. Why don't I just keep doing this, right?
Yeah.
Because you get rewarded for doing it by being able to kill enemies. So why not? But the problem is, I did get to a point where I'm like, man, this feels like it's cheating myself. It
Yeah,
feels
but-
like there's no way to play the game properly, but I feel like I'm not playing the way I want to play the game, if that makes sense. Because I'm using this skill way too much.
Oh, I
And
think
they
I know what
ended
you're
up-
talking about. The one that
You know
they-
the one, yeah.
Yeah,
a
yeah.
certain ice thing. And
Yeah, that was massive. That was like
little-
almost cheesing the game.
it kind of felt like cheesing in a
pretty
lot of it.
close.
Look, it wasn't like it made you a god or anything like that, but there were so many instances where it was so bloody useful. So yeah, they nerfed the hell out of that. But I love that. I love that it forced me to go and do something else. It forced me to try a different build, bunch of different skills, different weapons, all sorts of shit. I ended up using the skill again, even if it's in its nerfed form, because in certain situations it is useful.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's how it probably should be from a balancing perspective, the way it is now. So again, like fucking brilliant patch. Really glad they actually did that. Sorry to the people that got pissed off because they were abusing a particular system. But clearly they didn't do it to be complete dicks to the players because they left the farming spots there.
Oh,
They could
yeah,
have
for sure.
easily changed that, but clearly it's there because
super
it's-
intentional.
It's for you to go and have the liberty to go do that kind of stuff if you want to. And if you don't want to do it and you want to make the game hard for yourself, go ahead and make the game hard.
And you definitely can. There's like so many additive stuff to fights, like boss fights as well, where you can do extra things or not. Like choose not to do any of those things. It's up to you, like to approach the game however you want. So I love it from that perspective. This game is just so awesome. Like it's like 100% grabbed me as much as Breath of the Wild has. The only thing is, I just wish I could play it portably. Like I wish that I could play it on the Steam Deck. That I feel so jealous for everyone who gets to play this game on the Steam Deck. Like that's like insane that you can do that. And then go
What
back to the
platform are you
Steam.
playing it on, Swinny?
I am currently not playing Elden Ring, Mike,
I
and
still
you
find
know
that
that.
crazy.
You
And
know
also,
that.
what a dumb question! As if he's not going to play it on Xbox. Like there's like zero chance. Even if it was
Literally-
like,
I literally own it on Xbox. Why would I play it on anything?
That was a multifaceted dumb question.
even if it was like broken, I think you'd play it on Xbox over PS5 because you'd be like, they're going to fix it one day.
Of course.
Yeah. But I
awesome.
think because you can get all the achievements in a single playthrough per se, right? There's
Yeah.
no...
So on that, you'd be happy to know this, Winnie. I think I'm gonna go for the platinum on this game. I'm like just enjoying it so much, but I won't do it the proper way. I'll save scum the ending. I think there's like some stuff you need to do at the end.
Cool. Now you need to go back and platinum the previous games as well.
Nah. Like I know, literally, I'm only looking at it because it doesn't have any. I know like Dark Souls has a couple where I'm like, I just couldn't be F to do that. It's same as Dark Souls 3, but this game doesn't have like I went through just at a high level without spoiling myself. Like what does it want you to do? And it's very straightforward. It's like very much like play the game, get through all the things, do the optional key stuff, and amp up your weapons and stuff like that. It's all stuff I'm happy to do. It's kind of like all the stuff I did for Breath of the Wild. There's no trophy or achievements or anything like that. But yeah, it's hard not to gush about this game. I feel like we're going to be talking about it for a while. In terms of like finishing the game, Mike, do you have a sense in your mind how much further you've got to go?
Like I said, just based on the map itself, maybe halfway there. But I haven't, because I don't know where the story. It's not like it doesn't have quests.
Yeah. It's
Dark
so
Souls, I have
weird.
no idea what. All I know is I'm talking to all these NPCs, and I feel like they're really key people, and this is a really key item that they've given me that is probably going to affect the ending or some shit like in the previous games. But I have no idea where I'm going to use it, when I'm going to use it, where the hell it is. It's so esoteric. I love it.
Yeah, and like even on that, like because we're both playing it, like especially the story stuff and just what you need to do blind. And I'm like banging my head on the wall sometimes. I'm like, where am I meant to go? Like what the hell am I meant to do? And some stuff is so like buried. Like
Yeah. Oh,
really,
I'm sure I missed a lot of stuff.
I'm meant to
yeah.
go through
Even
this
in those 70 hours.
catacomb and then find this teleporter or something. Like there's literally no other way to do it. And sometimes it's like there's two ways to get somewhere, and that's it. Like, and if you don't find those two ways, you'll never get there. Like it's like shit. But it like this is just the amazing thing of the game. It's so structured to force you to explore. It's like even the first boss that it's been in the trailers and everything like that. It's difficult if you're not leveled up and you haven't done some stuff. So it's like really there to go. All right, go back Go look around. Go do something else.
But you're talking about the optional one that you don't even have to do. Is it the one I'm thinking of?
It's not optional. No. I'm not talking about the
Not the castle?
I'm talking about the boss, the first story boss, where the
castle
cutscenes
one.
and stuff. You have to do that boss.
No, you don't. Fully optional.
I don't think you can complete the game if you don't do that.
No, you
boss.
can. It's a fully optional boss. You only have. Yeah, you can. You can completely bypass that entire area.
I'm not saying
That's
you
the
can't
crazy
bypass
part.
the area, but I don't think you
don't
can
have
actually
to.
finish the game.
I think you can.
Okay,
yeah.
we'll talk about it off air.
We might have to correct it later, but I reckon.
I'm
we
pretty
can
sure
finish
you're
the game
wrong. I'm
without
like
it.
99% sure you're
All right,
wrong.
we're talking about the castle dude, right? Certain castle.
Yeah, like there's a
boss?
gate. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the first one. Like it's not like a spoiler.
Yeah.
because it's
No, I'm
been
pretty
released
sure you
now.
can completely bypass.
Pretty
that.
sure. Okay.
Yep.
But,
Well, we'll
yeah.
see who's right. We'll look it up.
Well, also
I
some of
wish
the
Swinny
methods,
played it. He'd know.
some of the methods that like speedrunners have managed to like to get
True.
complete the game in like 30 minutes. Some of those methods have been patched out. So
Oh,
what
really?
some bosses maybe people thought were optional because they had those methods to get around via glitches or something,
Maybe,
they've been patched. So.
but I think this particular one is completely optional.
Yeah. No, it says here it's not an optional.
Oh.
I can send it to you.
Well, yeah,
Anyway.
we'll talk about it.
I just went
afterwards
to
anyway, see if we're
Fextra
talking
Life.
about the same one.
It literally has it written like this. This is not an optional
let's
boss
see.
as players
Send me the
must
one you're
defeat
thinking of.
in advance. I'm like,
Okay.
this is like literally.
Maybe we're thinking about a different boss. Huh.
What? This is the first story boss. I don't know how you could think any other bosses. It's like they literally almost say, "This is the first story boss."
Yeah, because I thought you could completely bypass
Anyway,
the entire...
you're wrong.
Yeah.
But we've corrected you.
Whatever,
already,
send me
so-
the link of that boss.
Okay. This is Margot, the Omen King.
Yeah, okay, I thought he was optional.
It might have been glitched before, but it's definitely not
Anyway.
intended to be optional at all.
Okay.
But yeah, look, I still think
keep going.
Dark Souls is like a greater game, if that makes sense. Like, I'll never get past that just for what it introduced and brought together, but I love this way more than Dark Souls. Like, Dark Souls was like painful almost to me. Like S&O and stuff like that. Oh, fuck. I was like, I hate this game. It was like, I think it was just random luck that I was able to beat S&O in like, I don't know how many turns it was, 12 turns or something like that, right? But that was pissing me off so much, more than any boss in this game has so far. So I can't wait till you play it, Swinny. It's going to be insane.
Hang on a sec. It says that...
Oh Jesus!
because it says that this boss is found in a different place. It's not...
That's
Look,
not...
this may have spoilt a bit of
No,
my
it's not
a bit of my
this
story.
is not talk about, like,
But I don't
the
think
rest.
it's the same. Yeah, look, this is confusing
I'm not
because it might have
talking about a
spoiled something
boss
for me.
that you fight 50 hours into the game, am I? When I say the first boss.
No, but you
How
don't
could
have
that
to
possibly be the first boss? You...
because
absolute
I have
idiot.
a feeling this. No, you're talking about a different one. You're talking about Margot.
Yes,
The
that's the
Omen King?
first boss.
No, he's not the first boss.
Oh
he's in the royal capital, according to this. You don't get to that
Oh,
till
am
way
I... Oh,
later in the game.
Sorry.
So, haha. So he's like,
It's the table is turned. Have the table turned. Oh, the boss is optional. The boss is optional. This has been a massive turnaround.
the one you're talking
Yes.
about.
No, wait,
is
let's not talk about it.
optional.
Let's not talk about
But
it.
Controversy
it
abounds.
just
I will apologize
You know
to
what's
Mike.
controversial?
I was wrong.
what's controversial is that I think that just spoiled part of the
No,
story
let's
for
not talk
me,
about it. Just move
looking
on.
at this wiki page.
Well, don't look at
So
it.
thanks for that. I shouldn't have
You're not
looked
up
at
to that
that.
bit? Okay, interesting.
No, I'm not up to that bit. But now it's already spoiled that
You know
bit.
how I'm like dyslexic? To me, they're just the exact same name. Margot, Margit, whatever.
'Cause
They're the same.
Wow, that's confusing. I should
Yeah.
probably look at that wiki page
That
in
is
detail
funny.
now. So
I swear to God that wasn't an optional boss, but I do find it funny that the other one isn't optional. Yeah, no, this game's amazing. Like, it is... Oh, Jesus. Like, I do feel terrible for games that are coming out. And I'm going to be so fascinated with Breath of the Wild this year, like Breath of the Wild 2. Because the biggest criticism, and I don't mind, like, there's pretty much almost very little that I dislike about Breath of the Wild. You know, I know that Swinny's not a big fan of weapon degradation and a few other things, and, you know, that's fine. Like, I think that's an opinion thing. But
it's a fact.
I do for sure agree that the lack of dungeons in Breath of the Wild felt like something that was missing in that game. And then you play this game, and it has everything that Breath of the Wild has in terms of exploration, and then it has big ass fucking dungeons. Like, I'm like, dude, they did
And
it.
small ones.
So if Breath of the Wild 2 doesn't have these dungeons, I genuinely think people will just go, like, Elden Ring had all that stuff. It had all the, you know, the open world plus the mega dungeon. Like, these dungeons are massive. It's crazy. Like it literally is like a Dark Souls game plus the open world. So yeah, I'm so fascinated to some of these games coming out. You know, Starfield. Like everyone's going to compare all these games to Elden Ring now. Like it's the new Breath of the Wild comparison, which is going to piss people off for the next couple of years. So
I am worried about it a little bit because I feel like it's the pinnacle of what I want in a game. Because I love the Dark Souls formula, and they took it and they just made it to perfection. That after this, I'm like, the hell am I going to really play to enjoy it the same way? I just love it so much that everything else is just going to feel emptier, and I have to like readjust my. I don't know. I'm not looking forward to finishing it.
So that's why me playing a mix of AAA games, B games, everything in between sets your expectation on a straight line. That's what it is.
Yep.
Swinny's dating
Save the best for
threes
last.
and tens and fours, and he can appreciate
Yep.
old ladies.
Yep.
Or men. I mean, you know, whatever he's into. Judge.
Last thing I just wanted to say on that though, I don't agree with you. I think that Dark Souls, the formula in Dark Souls, the tension of dying and losing your souls, fighting to get back to where you were, everything like that is kind of what they were going for and was perfectly executed from my perspective. This game, I don't have the same tension. I lost 150,000 runes on a run one time. Like I got killed and I'm like, shit, I better get back to get those 150,000 runes. And I died and I was like, yeah, well, whatever. There's like plenty of farming spots. Like it makes me feel like I don't give a shit about the runes.
I thought of that too, but here's the thing. I remember that happening in Dark Souls towards the mid game to the end as well. At a certain point, I never gave a shit anymore because I knew if I lost whatever, I could go get more from wherever. So I found that in because you had Darkroot, was it Darkroot Garden, Swinny, where you had that hidden bonfire?
Yeah, where they
you could farm the hell out of that.
Yeah, I got a lot of
with the ghosts and shit.
I did that.
Whenever like I lost.
And they never patched that out.
That's
It's
intentional.
probably intentional
but
as well. I think. Yeah.
I don't. That
but
wasn't,
I know what you mean at the same time.
That's not as crazy as this game. Like the farming spot in this game feels like it's 10 times more productive than in Dark Souls.
It is, but I remember at the start, before coming to this particular spot, I definitely did feel that same sense of tension. Like, oh shit, I just lost 3,000.
No. I agree. Yeah, okay.
Nothing.
I probably should clarify.
Nothing now.
100%. I felt like that until I found some good farming spots.
Yeah,
it was
like,
there.
whatever.
Which makes me always think, like, I wonder what the game would feel like if they got rid of those farming spots. Which to me are like, it's a bit like the easy mode in the game. Like, if you ignored those parts of the game, far out, the game's way harder.
It's hard to ignore them, man. It's hard because it's so tempting to go.
Mate, the game's already hard enough. I don't want to make it harder on myself.
I know.
Unless you do a soul level 1 run. The fact that people are already doing that in this game is insane.
Crazy.
You know, I looked at I really love Dark Souls. That game is so good. Like, I actually might play it again, which is insane for me. And I looked at the soul level 1 or whatever it's called run. I'm like, oh, it's not as... Well, I'm not going to say it's not crazy, but it's not as extreme as I thought it was. Because I didn't realize...
Elden Ring or Dark Souls?
Dark Souls.
I told you that and you didn't believe me.
Well, I didn't understand because the way I played Dark Souls was mixed blind and I didn't go too deep on the mechanics and stuff. Like, you know, adding stuff to my... Like, weapons and all this other kind of stuff. I didn't realize you could just get certain items that it's like, oh, boost these stats and do... I'm like, oh, this is kind of like a pseudo leveling up anyway.
Well, that's why I talked about with Smail and Ornstein, that I used the red tier ring strategy on them. Sure, it made it hard because I couldn't get hit, but the damage I was doing was insane.
Yeah.
So if you're skilled at dodging enemy attacks in Dark Souls 1, then you can obliterate enemies. It's still challenging, but that's why I was saying, like, when I complete it and you're like, oh no, I'm like, it's not as wasn't as hard as people thought because
I still think it's
the Souls games, and I can't speak for Elden Ring, but Souls games are all about the gear you have, not the character stats you have.
I ultimately agree that it's not as crazy as I thought initially. It's still pretty crazy. Like, to me, it's like just beating Dark Souls anyway is really good achievement. Like, beating it then with that added level of difficulty. But yeah, it's probably not quite as crazy. But yeah, I don't know about this game if I'll ever play it again. It's just so freaking long. I kind of just want to do everything in this playthrough and then move on. But other games,
I don't
unless
know
you
why
want to say anything else, Mike, we've gone on for like half an hour.
I think
about
I'm the
Elden
same.
Ring.
I'm the same with you. I think maybe years down the track I might play it again. It's just that
like a remaster version.
Maybe a remaster. If I'm going to put 150 hours into this game, the fact that you can respec and you can always do New Game Plus and whatnot.
But New Game Plus is like a new run for me. I'm not going to do New Game Plus.
if I completely wrap everything up in the first one, I'd play it just to kind of go through that initial stage.
Where you're just
again.
fucking people up and stuff.
Yeah, well,
Is that what
maybe
happens in
depends
New
on-
Game Plus? I don't even
No,
play
not
New Game
really.
Plus. Oh,
Because
okay.
they scale up as well.
That's-
So
Forget
Yeah,
about that
but
then.
if it's,
It's
anything,
easier.
if it's anything like the Dark Souls games, still the first third of the game on New Game Plus, you
Pretty much
breeze
is,
through the
yeah.
bosses.
Yeah.
So if it's anything like that,
Yeah.
I don't know in this one.
Well, it seems like that because I've seen some people play the New Game Plus and they're just like got crazy weapons and just destroying mobs of enemies. Like it's definitely not like that when you first start playing the game. Maybe we'll move on, Mike, because we have been
Yeah.
banging on about Elden Ring a while.
we love it.
I have been playing Elden Ring, and then also because I've been commuting again, I've dusted off the Switch, and I'm like, well, you know, I don't have a Steam Deck. I'd definitely be playing Steam Deck Elden Ring if I could, but dusted off the Switch and started playing Triangle Strategy again, or continuing, and fuck me, that game has long story shit. Like, I enjoy it. And I checked online. I'm like, damn, man, like there's really a lot of story. And supposedly, like once you get to chapter 4, it starts to level out a bit. But it's like, I swear it was like 1 hour of story at one point. Whereas like every time I'm picking it up and dropping it and going back to it, I'm like, am I going to fight anyone? Like,
Jeez.
I'm literally just playing a story here. It's like mind blowing to me. Like it's definitely not what I expected in that way, but it's still a very cool game. I'm enjoying it. And then the last one for me was, started playing the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe DLC. So I don't know what they're calling it. The booster pack, I think, from memory. Wave 1.
Sounds about right.
I'm pretty sure it's the wave 1 of the booster pack. And it's awesome. Like, I think the thing for me that I was worried about was that I heard some people, and I feel like it's more of a rumor than anything else, that the tracks would be all the models from Mario Kart Tour, because a lot of the tracks that are announced are actually tracks that have appeared in Mario Kart Tour that aren't in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So I'm kind of like, that does make sense. Nintendo is just known for like taking an asset from one thing and just dropping it into another.
Yeah,
but
they've been dropping the Mario asset since 1989.
But to be fair, the most mobiles are way more powerful than the bloody Switch anyway.
well, Switch is an
Sure,
Android
but-
phone anyway, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Or tablet. Yeah, it's called Booster Course Pack. That's what it's called. So there's going to be 48 courses. There's 4 initially released. But yeah, I was really happy to see it wasn't like that. Like they just, to me, I didn't analyze the hell out of it. It's just in terms of my impressions. It felt very much just like another set of Mario Kart tracks, which is awesome because I have played through the 48 tracks that are currently in the game stacks of times. And it's cool just to kind of go, oh, okay, I'll just dial into this game, play through these. I always like to get gold and everything, all the categories. I'm still not a fan of 200cc's. Like, to me, Mario Kart, the pinnacle of Mario Kart is when you never touch the brake. I find that with 200cc's, maybe it's just I'm not good enough. I do actually have to tap off the accelerator or tap the brake a little bit. And I know it sounds dumb because there is an accelerator and there's a brake, and I never use it in 150cc's. It's just flat out all the time. But that to me is Mario Kart. Pretty much every other Mario Kart game I've played is like you just go flat out all the time. So I'm just not a fan of 200cc's. But no, it's awesome. Like really, really enjoy it. And it's so fucking Nintendo the way they rolled this out. So I, updated my Mario Kart 8. Cool. Jumped into it and it's got a new screen. I'm like, oh, sick. It's got like the new tracks. Click on the track to play it. And it's like, oh, you need to have, a booster pack, or like booster course pack. I'm like, what the hell? Or it's like, you need to be a Nintendo Switch Online Premium or whatever it's called. I'm like, yeah, I am that. Like, what the fuck? Like, it's so ridiculous. You have to go into the Nintendo Switch Online Premium app, then go through, like, click it all the way through, find the booster course pack, click in it, and then it jumps into the store where it goes, oh, you can buy it, and then it has a little download button. And you got to click download, and that's the only way you can activate it. I'm like, why is it like this? It doesn't make any sense. It's like, I'm subscribed, just freaking like work. Like, yeah, it's just like very, very Nintendo. So yeah, that kind of pissed me off. But
They don't make enough money to fix stuff like that.
No,
So it's just
no. But I'll
of a
definitely be
break.
playing more of the Switch games now that I'm starting to go back into work in person. For international listeners, Australia's been pretty much locked up for like 2 years, and it feels like all the lockdowns are finished now, pretty much. So we're all starting to get back to work very timidly, I think. And then over to you, Swinny. What have you been playing? Not Elden Ring.
No, not Elden Ring. Frowny face. It's coming though. It's coming. I'll be getting my Elden Ringing on pretty soon.
Oh, now I'm
I
interested to hear.
I'm
but
looking
yeah.
forward to it. I
I
really
have
am.
been playing a lot of a game I'll be talking about later, quite a bit, called ELEX II. I'll be reviewing that. It's the latest RPG from not Alex RPG from Piranha Bytes. But some other stuff I've been playing. So more so I've been watching, but I have been playing a little bit of GeoGuessr. Have you guys ever heard of GeoGuessr?
How are people
Yeah, is
good at this?
that-
It's incredible.
Oh, it is watching. So I've been
I
stuck
almost
in
think it's fake when people are good at it.
Yeah, watching like people on
It's too
YouTube,
crazy.
it is insane that they're dropped in and they're like, those trees, I'm in Kenya, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there's people that would be bullshit, but there's also some channels that I'm like, they've staked their whole reputation channel based on
Right
this,
now.
but
Yeah.
also like, I think it's called, I think it's named GeoWizard channel, where he'll actually in real life get his girlfriend to drive like 5 hours in the UK. Drop him
Oh,
off
that's cool,
somewhere,
that's
and then
cool.
he has to guess in real life where he is.
That's cool. That's cool.
It's pretty funny, but I've been playing a bit of that.
Oh, you've been actually playing it.
I'm playing a little bit, watching
Okay.
more of it. So I probably should say I've been indulging in a bit of that. But it's a trio of games I want to talk about. Is that Game Pass games?
Yes.
Some have been in Game Pass a little bit, some are pretty new. So one is a game that Mike touched upon 2 episodes ago, Infernax. So Infernax is, if anyone that's watching YouTube, should be pretty obvious, but it's a retro style action platformer. Very heavy Castlevania, but also Zelda 2 and a bit of Wonder Boy influence in terms of, you have like a hub town area, you can upgrade your abilities and things like that. So
Very NES
is-
graphics.
very NES graphics. But I was honestly surprised that it did have a bit of a Metroidvania design. I wasn't expecting that. I was almost expecting it to be a level by level Castlevania style, or at least the original Castlevanias. So I was actually weirdly kind of put off a bit by that, because I was ready to just play a game that I
Yeah.
just like
Plow
play
through the
through
levels.
level to level.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's plenty of classic games I can play like that, but I was like, it's actually was different than I thought. And the fact that you could upgrade your abilities and things, I was like, But look, it seems pretty cool. The controls felt. This is not a negative. It's just again like against my expectations. They felt very modern, where I was almost
okay,
expecting
yeah.
it to play like Castlevania,
I get
where
that,
you jump and then you committed to that jump and you can't change in the air and stuff.
Yeah, no,
like
I don't
that.
mind
So
that. I don't mind that actually.
it depends if the game's designed
Yeah.
for it. Yeah, there's times when this obviously game is not like that. It's designed like a modern game, but I was almost like expecting one thing and it gave me another thing. But it seems cool.
I was the opposite. Remember, I felt like I was expecting more of a SNES era experience, but I got an S experience, which is obviously what the game is. More,
the control. It doesn't control
towards-
anything like an
but
NES
it
game.
doesn't at the same time. It's a weird in between kind of thing. Yeah, it's a very weird in between.
So yeah, and honestly, I know you weren't crash hot on it, Intergot, but I appreciated the way that Cyber Shadow approached this design more, because it kind of had the classic design and then it just made it nicer, whereas this feels like a modern game that's got an 8-bit aesthetic. So, but look, yeah, honestly, I need to get back to Cyber Shadow as well. So
Yeah,
that
and
was Infernax.
Like Cyber Shadow, I'm not like against it or anything like that. To me, it was like a 7 or an 8 or something like that. I can't remember what I
that's
said
fair
at the time. It just didn't blow me away. But I was very disappointed with the sales that they have had on that game. Like, it actually shocked me. It was like, I think like 30,000 or 60,000 or something like that.
On which game?
Cyber Shadow.
Oh,
Is that
okay.
because a lot of people got it on Game Pass?
100%, man. I reckon.
Yeah.
Like, but it's just like, I don't know. Like, they obviously get a bit of like a good chunk of change from Game Pass, but yeah, like even games on Game Pass still are selling pretty decent. Like that was like, wow, okay, that's pretty low. So it's a decent game. People should check it out.
Yep. So the next game is Shredders. So I was a little excited to try this. It's a snowboarding game. And I could be wrong, because I'll explain why. It felt more arcadey than a sim or anything like that. But I do love, there's some snowboard games I've loved. I love the skate games. It's nothing like the skate games. Obviously, there's skateboarding, but in terms of like the gameplay style. But I was like, this looks cool and everything.
Sick.
it's a pretty small developer. It seems like a pretty bare bones game from what I've played. I could be wrong because after about an hour, I honestly put this down. It just didn't click with me at all. Something about the controls, I just never gelled with me. Because it's on Game Pass, I think then it gives people that have a subscription a good chance to just try it out. But it does have the way that it handles the tutorial, I feel, is just does the game a bit of a disservice because it's just odd. Like, it's really oddball game. It's not what I was expecting at all. It's not like an in-your-face extreme game or a sim game. It's like almost like a quirky game, the way they handle like the characters talking to each other. It's just really bizarre.
Like Horizon kind of level of talking? Forza Horizon kind of,
I'd say a bit better than that. Forza Horizon, I had to mute that game. It wasn't that
literally
bad.
had to mute that
It wasn't
game.
that bad, but
What is up with writing in games? It's so horrible. Like, so horrible. Like,
I have thoughts, but I want to talk.
okay.
yeah. So look, I wasn't feeling it, but I think it's worth a try. But yeah, it didn't click with me. The last game I'll talk
Before
about.
you move on, because it just triggered my memory. What the hell happened to Riders Republic?
Well,
You know,
I mean, it
'cause, like,
launched
that came
and
out.
no one.
Like, no one talked
Yeah.
about that game.
It launched and no one gave a shit.
That's
so
cool. 'Cause I've heard-
including myself, and I was kind of interested.
Yeah, you
in
were.
it, but
That's why I kind
think,
of like was like, wait a second, did that come out? Because you would have said about it.
I think the problem with me is that I say stuff and then I go back on it. So.
But it
No.
scored. Like, I mean, Metacritic's not everything, but it got like 79. It's not terrible. Like,
No,
yeah.
by what I've heard and some people playing the game seemed alright.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it just didn't. Like, not only did I forget that game exists, do I forget it exists all the time, but like it's never slot into any kind of like my gaming habits or anything to go. Okay, I'm going to go buy Riders Republic. So
Yeah,
maybe
sorry,
The problem
if
is
it
had
gets
no
added,
weapons.
if it gets added to Game Pass, then that's probably a good one to try it on there. So.
or when Microsoft buys Ubisoft, so
Oh God, don't joke about that. It's probably
you would
gonna
love that. You'd have the whole table would be raising if that happened.
Dude, I think you forget that Assassin's Creed isn't all of Ubisoft. So, all right.
Oh,
So the last game that I'm going to talk about is this trio is a game that has a much higher profile than those first two, which is Tunic. So this game got a surprise drop and release on Game Pass after it having years of hype. It's just really kind of strange. Ashen did the same thing, but this game had more hype to it. Like, this was one of the biggest talked about games when it got revealed at E3 2017. That's how long this game has been in production. And it's just kind of like, okay, it's out. So it's like, not saying it's a horrible thing, but it just feels like to not even announce it, like, it just feels like a weird way to do it, but whatever. This is Tunic's from the Canadian developer by the name of Andrew Shouldice, I think his name is. So apparently most of the game was done by him, just as a sole developer, but I think he did get support by publisher Finji. So Finji published Chicory, Overland, Night in the Woods, so a bunch of games that people love. This game is absolutely gorgeous.
This looks sick.
So so this game that's been known about for a long time, Mike, but it's
like
it's
subtle shade.
I'm surprised you didn't know about Chini, but that's all good.
What?
So it's gorgeous. It's got great music, but it has a very different feel and tone to what I was expecting. A lot of reviews are also echoing this, not in a bad way. It's just different. A lot of people say, okay, it's a Zelda style game, blah blah blah. This feels a lot closer to something like Death's Door than Zelda. Like, this is not.
Yeah.
This is
This
not
is
an
Death's
easy
Door,
game.
isn't it? It's just renamed, or
So,
And you're
but
a fox instead of
but
a
the
crow.
game is very mysterious, like way more than something like Death's Door. It's almost got like Fez and Hyperlight Drifter style of, okay, the game doesn't tell you anything on purpose. It's obtuse by design. So much so that you actually, and I love this, as you walk around, and it's right at the start, so it's not a spoiler, like, you collect pages of the actual video game manual.
yeah.
And the
wow.
manual is like a classic manual, but it's written in a different language. So you have to like follow on by the pictures, and it's really cool. I really love that. I'm still very early. I'm only like an hour and a half in. I really like this game. It's not easy though. They do have accessibility options for people that struggle. Apparently, it gets really tough.
Neither is life.
It's not.
Yeah,
it's
here we
not
are.
easy. That's interesting because you're
No,
like
not
you're
easy
like
at
a
all.
god gamer, so it's like
Well-
even Death's Door is like a lot harder than a Zelda game. So
I'm also going off the back of a lot of what I've heard about the late game of Tunic, that it does get very difficult as well. But they have ridiculous accessibility options, like you literally cannot die and stuff if you struggle on a certain thing.
it
But
does look like the same engine from like Death's Door. I'm by the way, I'm like super keen to play this game. But it does it amazes me how much it does look like Death's Door, like with a different theme, but like just the effects and everything. It's really interesting.
yeah, I think I feel it is prettier. But it's also more colourful, which is
more colourful,
probably impacts me saying, "Oh, it's a nicer looking game." Death Store look nice, but
Yeah.
I'll definitely get back to that. But that was that's what I've been playing this week, and I did actually play a lot more Game Pass games, but I'm only covering those 3 this week, so I'll get to more over the coming month.
I feel like we should just do a video one time of you going, like, I'm gonna rank 50, or like I'm gonna do a tier list of 50 Game Pass games because you've played so many.
Microsoft, chill the fuck out with the Game Pass games. Like, I literally have
Stop giving us so much
my
free stuff.
spreadsheet. I've had to start referencing and like other spreadsheets people have created. I'm like, oh my god, there's like 5 new games I didn't realize are being added to PC Game Pass
Yeah.
only, and I'm like, now I have to go play bloody Total War 3 or something like some
F1
RTS.
21.
Yeah, F1 21. It's like, oh my god, now
Good game,
which is
by the way.
fine, right?
It is a good
I'll
game.
try it, but it's like, chill out with the fucking game release. I can't keep up.
Yeah, I'm
What a problem to have.
Tunic's on my list because it's like, interestingly, people are like, oh, I could sneak into a Game of the Year nomination. I was like, really? Jeez, okay, that's a big call. Got 85 on Metacritic, which is pretty decent.
I have no idea if it's that good, but it seems cool.
I mean,
They're
if I
calling
think
it
of a game
Zelda
like...
Souls. I'm like, ugh.
Ooh, okay,
Honestly,
that's
honestly, it doesn't feel too far off that. I wanted to
Okay,
ing saying
Okay.
anything about
Cool.
Souls, but
Souls-like,
anyway.
Souls-inspired. But
and it could end up being Game of the Year. I mean, if I think back of a game like Fez, I would have rated
could be
Fez
Game of the Year.
back then.
in the same year that
Well, I
Elden Ring
don't know.
came out, I think
Well,
Elden Ring is
actually,
like
yeah.
got the mantle right now.
Well, it's
Forget
funny
it.
that
There is I don't think there's anything that, unless they have Sextris 2 that comes out as an official product,
Electric Boogaloo.
nothing can beat it. What were you going to say, Swinny?
no, I was just saying,
Oh,
like, there's a lot of the words Elden Ring popping up in Tunic reviews, and I'm like, why? Why are you doing that now? You moved on from Souls to Elden Ring, like, you know.
Why? Like, also, why? I just don't understand people releasing games near Elden Ring. Kind of, you knew what the hype was. You just, I don't know. And also, by the way, I would just delay the game. I don't care if I was gonna, like, release my game 2 weeks after Elden Ring. And then Elden Ring comes out and gets like 97 on Metacritic. I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm going to push it out for like a month. I'm delaying it.
Especially with
I found a
Tunic.
bug.
Especially with Tunic, like,
Yeah.
I can't. There's no. I doubt there's like cereal boxes being printed with Tunic on it. They have to be in stores, like, a lot of AAA
Yeah.
releases that can't move the dates and things.
Yeah.
To just shadow drop it, but anyway.
Yeah,
That's
because
enough.
it seems weird. Because the last thing I just want to say on that, it just seems weird because that's the kind of game I reckon if you released maybe 4 to 5 weeks after Elden Ring, that's around the time that a lot of people are like, oh, I'm moving on. You know what I mean? And those players, it's like, hey, you've just experienced this. You want to try something similar but different. But yeah, it's so been overshadowed. I've actually been looking forward to seeing this game drop. And then it just dropped. And I didn't even notice it. It didn't pop up in anything because everyone's just banging on about Elden Ring every day. So it's just all getting washed out. But let's jump into the news. So we're starting with a somewhat surprising update on the veil has finally been lifted on the Wizarding World open world action RPG Hogwarts Legacy. So this was announced officially back in September 2020, is long rumored for a long time. And it has already suffered one delay. I think we were all sort of wondering that this was going to be delayed again, but no, they're saying it's coming out holiday 2022 on all platforms, including the Switch, which is interesting. So it's developed by Avalanche Software, behind Toy Story 3 and Disney Infinity series, and published by Warner Bros Portkey Games label. Initial impressions, Mike, you watched the State of Play, right?
I have, and holy moly. So I am not a
Harry Potter.
put a bit of context onto this. I'm not a Harry Potter fan at all. I read
You're a
the
J.K.
original
Rowling
book.
fan, but not a Harry Potter fan, right?
No, I'm not a fan of any of the whole thing, and it's not because they're not good books or anything like that, or because the characters aren't
Have you
great.
read
I
them?
think I have. I read
Okay.
the first and the second book.
Oh, okay. And you didn't like
Yeah,
them?
totally.
Oh,
No.
interesting.
I think because I read them much later in life,
Yeah.
and by that stage, had already read books like Magician. I played a shit ton of games. That
Come on,
a
we
lot
were
more-
already all old by the time these books came
That's
out.
the
Come on.
thing. Well, I feel like we were old enough that I had already read a lot of way more mature stories before that, so I just didn't get into it
Sextress.
as much.
You were a changed man
Exactly.
after that.
I was a changed man after that. So,
And that was
I'll
at
say
7.
that. However, in saying all of that, this looks spectacular. This looks amazing. It looks like something that even if I'm not into Harry Potter, I want to give this a crack. It just looks so good. And it's hard to kind of judge what the gameplay is going to be like. You can to the extent of, I can see you can brew potions and it's probably going to do this and it's going to do that. And you can sort of see the abilities that you are. And no doubt in the game there's going to be a HUD, so it's a bit different. But it just looks like it's solid. It looks like it's got a really good story, potentially. Amazing graphics for this kind of a game. And I'm actually looking forward to this. I never thought I'd say I'd be looking forward to a Harry Potter game, but
Yeah.
here we are. This looks great.
And before Swinny corrects you, like I know he would, so it's not Harry Potter. It's in that kind of universe.
Yeah, it's in that universe. You know what I mean? Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's I think 200 years before the Harry Potter events and that timeline. So they've definitely tried to separate it as well. So there's not going to be any crossover or anything like that. I'm in the same camp as you, man. Like I had zero interest in this game, like
Yeah, same.
negative interest, honestly. It's just
Yeah.
like this IP, we're all too old for it. And I haven't read any of the books. Like I kind of got to a point where I'm like, I'm way too old to read Harry Potter, in my opinion. I'm not judging anyone who does, but then I got to a point where I'm like, I probably want to read them, but I'll read them to my kids, right? So that's kind of like the journey I'm on now. So probably in 3 or 4 years, I'll start reading them to my eldest. So then I'll finally, see what, if Harry Potter is any good. I'm sure it's really excellent, just by the fact that I've kind of not really heard of anyone say they're bad books. I might not love them, but anyway, getting back to this game, yeah, it looks really it looks way more polished than I was expecting. Like, I don't know why, but I was just thinking, oh man, this game's going to be really bad and really not play well, but it looks really interesting. How about you, Swinny?
Well, yeah, I guess you guys covered this about your familiarity with the Wizarding World, Harry Potter's, the Fantastic Beasts, and all that stuff. I've never read the books. I've watched the first 4 movies. I thought the first 2 were utter shite, and the third and fourth were really good. So I probably should have read the books, but I don't think I would have ever expected to be hyped for a Harry Potter related video game. And I'm pleasantly surprised that this game looks absolutely awesome and looks like graphically absolutely stunning. This is obviously
shockingly
running.
so, right?
Yeah, now we know that state of play footage is PlayStation 5 footage, and they did say that some of it is a mix of gameplay, some of a mix of cutscenes. But even the ones that look like it's obviously gameplay look fantastic. I know that the Harry Potter video games been a little mixed in the past. Some people love them. Obviously, they also grew up, reading, and probably that helped with appreciating the games more. But I don't think we've ever had a game in this world that blew people away. And so I think it's good that people are finally getting that.
They don't even
I will say it seems like they're finally getting that.
And it also is like one of those series where, at least with Star Wars, there's all these sub-series of video games in Star Wars universe where people really love it. Like the X-Wing series, and then like Lego, they've got their thing that they do. Like for me at least, I can't even tell you one Harry Potter game. Like it doesn't feel like any of them resonate or have made a mark. It's all that traditional sort of IP fodder that they put out there. I'm sure there's decent enough games, but I think this is going to be the first that actually cuts through to regular folk.
Well, the Lego Harry Potter games are actually pretty decent.
Yeah, but I just put that in that Lego category, right? Because you could make anything
I know.
X.
But I'm
right?
just linking it to what you just said about Star Wars. So at least it has that. but yeah, no, definitely. There's no Jedi Knight equivalent.
Yeah.
Star Wars game. You're like, okay, that was the one at the time that people are, oh my god, this game. So.
And then I kind of wonder, like, if this game is very successful, will they do a follow-up that they actually have it set in the Harry Potter time period?
Maybe that's a license to print money as well. So
Well, that's kind of what I wonder. It's like, because it's very smart if that's what they've actually done here. They've made it in like a different part, so then it's not connected, and you're not going to get any backlash. And if people go, you know what, the formula's great, like, put DLC, make a stack of money, and then 5 years time, bang, hey, the same type of game, but it's set, and you play as Harry Potter or something like that. I feel like people go apeshit for that.
Yeah, and I think it's the community manager for, I can't remember if it was community manager for Avalanche or on the Warner Brothers side, but they've clarified that there won't be microtransactions in this game, and a lot of people were almost expecting it.
Yeah.
So that's good to know. It's really good to know after that long discussion we had about bloody Gran Turismo 7 earlier. So.
And I know this, you guys are going to get annoyed throughout the year. I'm very carefully monitoring what games could be potentially Game of the Year nominees, because I want to try to play all of those this year. And I feel this could be a smoky. Like, I don't know exactly when it's going to get released. If it's released in December, I think it will struggle, obviously. But if it's released in November, I think that, because you can't underestimate video game journalists love Harry Potter, man. They freaking love Harry Potter and that universe. Like, they're a bit younger than us. They all read the books. Like, they have to vote on what games are going to go in there. And I just feel like this game, it wouldn't shock me, like, which is a massive turnaround in my mind from going, this could be a car wreck, this game, to being like, fuck, this could be a really decent game. So, yeah, I guess we'll check it out later in the year. And for our last news story, Swinny's Worlds Collide, as this week we've got the reveal of a new wrestling RPG called WrestleQuest. This is sick, Swinny. Take it away.
Yeah, so this was very unexpected, and if anyone watching on YouTube can see, we're talking about a pixel kind of sprite-based wrestling RPG that's coming to all platforms this year in Q3. Developed by Mega Cat Studios and published by Skybound Games. Skybound Games is the publisher that's owned by Robert Kirkman of Walking Dead fame and all that. So this game, I think, looks really cool. I've looked at some of the previous games that Mega Cat Studios have worked on, and none, I guess, spoke out to me. It's like, okay, I remember that being a great game or anything. But this looks cool. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of RPGs. I love my wrestling. And I love the concept they've got of this. So while this game does have some famous wrestlers I'll get to in a moment who's featuring in it, the story follows, fictional characters in a fictional story, and it's following the rise of Mustachio Man Randy Santos, which I think is a great name as someone that's like obviously modeling his character based on Randy Savage and things like that, which is cool. And I guess the rise, I'm assuming from him, because it shows a young version in the trailer, going from being a jobber to main event superstar. So it actually does, in terms of the actual real life wrestlers, so it features Macho Man Randy Savage, as you'd expect based on the story, Road Warriors, Andre the Giant, Jake the Snake, Sergeant Slaughter, Coca Beware, Booker T, Diamond Dallas Page, Jeff Jarrett, apparently more. So all wrestling icons in their own ways. So some big names there. And
before you move on, I thought all those characters are licensed, they're sort of owned by the WWE or whatever promotion. Is that not the case, or?
So a lot of, especially these older wrestlers, and the wrestlers that have passed as well, a lot of them retain the rights to their characters because it was kind of before the days when
they got smart and started to own the IP of the character.
Well, this day and age, if you're a known wrestler often, and if you join WWE, they will give you a new name, so they own the trademark.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Yeah.
When it comes to all these others now, there may be some that have legends deals with WWE or whatever that may need to negotiate. But generally speaking, especially the wrestlers that are still with us, because there are a few here that aren't.
Sure.
they can generally negotiate their own deals and
Okay.
licensing deals and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was just wondering if they did a deal with WWE. I was like very surprised, but maybe they didn't need to. So
there may be, for instance, like Andre the Giant. I wouldn't be surprised if they maybe had to work with WWE on Andre's likeness and things,
Yeah.
just potentially. But
Yeah.
I know a lot of the others, like Randy Savage, was not connected with WWE at the time that he passed. Very bad blood there between them two. But anyway, about the game itself, I think it looks cool. So gameplay is turn-based with reaction-based kind of skills and abilities. So I like the term reaction RPG. I think it's great. But basically, it's like Paper Mario style. I played a lot of those last year and none this year yet. So, but it's cool. Like, I like the fact you have to pin enemies in a battle. I guess you like get the HP down and you actually have to pin them in the turn-based battle to finish the battle. I just hope you're able to pin them all at once rather than have to like go to each enemy to do it. But yeah, I think it looks really neat. Wouldn't have no idea if it's going to turn out to be great or trash, but I'm sure it will at least be a fun time. So I'm looking forward to that coming out.
something different. It actually is insanely like I was listening to this podcast and they're talking about wrestling games. Oh, it was actually a completely unnecessary podcast, and they're talking about wrestling games, how they're always like about the wrestling and not the other aspects of the sports entertainment. And like, you know, building the hype and all that kind of stuff. And it makes me laugh that there's like a hype meter as well in the fight. It's like this person, this is their dream game. It's like, here you go. Let's see if you buy it.
It's such a, when like in hindsight, it's such an easy concept to mix together. And I don't know if it's ever been done before. Maybe it has, and it's been on mobile, or it's maybe a Japanese only game or something. Because a lot of wrestling games have your ability to like level your characters up and stuff, but this is very much obviously a turn-based RPG. It's not a wrestling game in any way by all accounts. So
Yeah, and this is like kind of like my dream to make like an AFL game that's like crossed over with another genre. Maybe it has to be a AFL Souls game.
AFL Rhythm Heaven game.
That's not too bad. I like that. Maybe I should just do an AFL X, and actually they ran a competition for 1 or 2 years called AFL X, so I couldn't use that. AFL Cross, and I just mash it up with different genres. But that's the main part of the news this week. But as we always do, as we wrap up the news, and we will, take all the news items that we thought, we want it as a, obviously we're the podcast of record. We want to put it out there. These are important things to us. I don't know if you know this, Mike, but I had my hand at doing 1 min for the Swin last week.
I actually did not see that.
I was going to ask you kind of spot. I was going to be like, so Mike, what did you think of last week's?
It was great.
That was great. You got through it again, obviously. You're still here. And I failed, Mike, in the last item.
Really?
Yeah, I found it really hard. Like, number one, I wasn't prepped at all. Like, Swinny just said, do you want to do it? I'm like, all right. And he's like, oh, shit. Okay, I didn't expect you to say yes. And then I think I was going okay, but I just stumbled on some of the sentences. Like, it is an amazing thing of, like, the way that Swinny writes sentences, the way that I would write it is different. And I would almost rewrite it if I had to do it. Because I need to, like, say it the way that, my flow is, so... But yeah,
it's not as easy as you thought it would be.
I'd never thought it was
years.
easy. I never said it was easy, but Swinny makes it look easy compared to me. But yeah, so like as always, Swinny, we start whenever you want to start, and you have 1 min, and each week we add an extra word as long as you're successful. So until you fail, and it goes back to the 1 minute mic. I'm just waiting for Swinny.
What was your
Oh, you're
score, by
waiting
the
for
way?
me,
Sorry.
are you? Oh, okay.
What was your score quickly before Swinny starts?
What?
What did you call your segment before Swinny
Nothing.
starts?
Nothing.
have a
We didn't have a good name for it. Because I'm never going to do it, so we don't need to think about it.
1
All
minute
right.
for the No.
No, shit.
All right. Supermassive Games have revealed their latest horror title called The Quarry. Ashen Studio A44 Games have revealed their next game, Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn. Pre-registration for Apex Legends Mobile is now available on Android. Warren Spector has confirmed that System Shock 3 is no longer in active development. Reports indicate there are talent turnover woes at Perfect Art Studio, the initiative. Gran Turismo 7 has drawn heavy criticism for its always online requirement and microtransactions. Chocobo GP has also gotten flack for its monetization model. A new trademark filing may indicate the GoldenEye 007 remaster is indeed happening. Konami is also recently renewed their Silent Hill trademark in Japan. The first round of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe DLC tracks have been released. Xbox are removing direct Twitter share functionality from console. 3 more Genesis titles being added to Switch Online library: Light, Crusader, Super Fantasy Zone, and Treasures Alien Soldier. Little known indie hit Elden Ring has already sold more than 12 million copies and has received a major patch including the ability to mark NPCs on the map. And finally, Swinny is still yet to play it.
Damn,
Nice work.
you breezed through
I
that.
know, yeah, we're going to
I
be up
looked
to
over
200
I looked
words,
over
man.
at the timer. I'm like, I've got 20 seconds
Damn.
left. I shouldn't have gone so fast.
Yeah, I just want to correct one thing. It's not the ability to mark NPCs. The NPCs are marked on the map automatically.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Oh, I'm just trying to be correct, Swinny.
No one cares.
Then Chocobo GP, that is like, it's insane how expensive that game is. I think it's like about $70 Australian, and there's like 9
Whoa.
tracks in it. It's just like the strange, I don't know, it looks very weird the way that game's structured, so. I didn't know about System Shock 3, I must admit.
Yeah, like I think it's pretty telling now that we hadn't heard about it in so long as well. Which, look, honestly, I'm okay with, because if it was in development hell anyway, then
Yeah.
I'd prefer a studio in the future to probably just have a fresh go at
Yeah.
that game anyway. So
And do
Yeah.
it justice. Amazing games.
And we've also got, oh man, I've totally just blanked on the guy's name who behind Bioshock.
Bioshock?
Shit, what's his name again?
No.
Ken Levine.
Ken Levine.
That's it. Yeah.
Like, his game is also in development hell, so who knows how that's going. I'm going to be fascinated about that. And there's another Bioshock game coming out. That could be even like this year or next year. It's a very weird time and space for those titles. All right, let's jump into Swinny's review of ELEX II.
Yes. So this week, or actually the last couple of weeks, I took a trip back to the wild, wonderful world of Magalan in the follow-up to Piranha Byte's 2017 RPG ELEX. What a surprise, called ELEX II. So the question that I guess I had to answer for myself as part of this review was it worth putting Elden Ring on ice to play this game, which I did. This game came out about 5 days after Elden Ring, so that is the reason why I have not played this game. And I've said that multiple times the last couple of weeks, so I'm probably going to repeat a few things here in this as part of this review. But so for ELEX II, for anyone that doesn't know, is an open world action RPG with a very heavy focus on narrative choice, factions, quests, exploration, and world building. It obviously has combat in it, but the big focus is on that world building and the narrative side of things. As for Piranha Byte, so they're a German studio that was founded in 1997, and they've only ever worked on action RPGs, so the Gothic games, the Risen games. They're a small team, but they've got huge ambitions in their games. Sometimes some people may say they aim for too much and they don't deliver on all of it, but I never hold anything against someone that's got good ambition for what they want to do, especially as part of a video game. But for me, so my experience with Piranha Bytes games actually didn't start at the Gothic games. I still haven't played the first 3 Gothics. I played the 4th one, which is here, Arcania, but that's not made by Piranha Bytes. So that was not my first Piranha Bytes game. My first one was the Risen series. And this is a copy I had to import from the UK because Risen was banned in Australia, unfortunately. Refused classification. So very good game. Honestly, that's where this game, the very first Risen game, is what made me fall in love with what Piranha Bytes do. It's probably, the second one's probably my favorite game in that trilogy, but there was just something magical about the way that they craft their worlds and craft their quests that honestly made me a lifelong fan. And I will now buy, unless they obviously do something horrible, I will probably buy any Piranha Bytes game on launch for full price because they're the kind of developer that I want to support. They're fairly, they're very small and everything, and it's like they're the ones that really need it. So, but as I said, it just had that special magic resonate with me. And after Resident 3, then they announced, okay, we're going to make this game series called ELEX, where it's a mix of like modern day, but with sci-fi as well as like fantasy elements. So it's kind of very, very mixed kind of setting, but it was intriguing to me. And I picked up ELEX on day one, but it didn't click with me right away. Honestly, it's a game that took me a while to enjoy, and it's a game that I didn't end up loving. I definitely didn't love as much as the Risen games. It definitely, I saw the potential for it, and that's why when last year when they announced that they were working on ELEX II, and it wasn't I think it was just after E3 that they announced ELEX II, so not a long time between announcement and the release recently. I was very hopeful that they would obviously bring some of that magic back in that I felt was missing, and I'm very happy to reveal that I think they did it. I think they really. This is a true sequel in many ways. I think they improved on everything, with one big exception, which I'll get to as part of the rest of the stuff.
Can I ask a question? You say they brought the magic back. Did they bring the tech back as well?
They brought the modern day back as well, Mike. They brought it all back.
Checking.
No, but I think that just there was something about ELEX that just didn't click, as I said, click with me, and I think this game has that. So, but this game is definitely not for everyone. So, I'll get some of the reasons why towards the end. But in terms of the story of this game, it is one of the most important aspects. So I want to touch on it a bit. This is a direct sequel in every way. In terms of narrative, if you haven't played the first ELEX game, you're going to be so lost, especially at the start. Piranha Bytes assume that you know the events of the game. They assume you know the characters. They kind of do a mini recap at the start, but it's not the kind of recap that I'll expect new players to get everything they need out of it. And so it's basically you're dumped into the sequel, and it picks up, I think it's at least a few years after the events of the first game. So you play as Jax, the same character as the first game. He's a former commander of what's like an emotionless faction called the Albs. They were the villains of the first game. So you spent the whole first game kind of becoming more human as you progress through the story. And this game picks up with you in isolation, frustrated that you save the world basically at the end of the first game, and then you learn that there's a threat of an alien invasion. And then apparently you go around telling everyone they don't believe you. It's like, motherfucker, I just saved the world and you don't believe me that aliens are coming. It's like, you bastards. And so he's living in isolation because people just aren't listening to him. And surprise, surprise, the aliens invade. So that's where this game picks up, as the aliens basically invade, and you're on a quest to basically unite all the factions of the people of Magellan to take on this alien threat. And they're like, literally, they've started taking over the world already. So now the aliens are called the Skyans, but what's really weird is they kept changing the name of these aliens not in the spoken dialogue, because every line is voiced in this game, but in the text, sometimes it was Skyand and someone was like Skyanid. I'm like, what's going on? So someone forgot to like do the find and replace on all the text lines. So that's something awesome. they can obviously easily patch out.
Yeah.
And this is
it's something you'd expect for a European studio, right?
Yeah, it's just like the main enemy name, the main faction, the villain names. It's a bit weird. But anyway, it's a small thing. It was all honestly just gave me a bit of a laugh when I saw it. It's not a huge thing or anything. But what I like is that because you're super powerful at the end of ELEX 1, and every RPG, well, with some exceptions, will generally start you from zero. And this game does that as well. But they came up with a narrative way to explain why you're so weak now.
Is it a spoiler to tell us?
No, it's literally the opening cutscene.
Okay,
so
cool.
It's not a spoiler.
What is it?
So you basically get poisoned by these enemies. Not poisoned, but it's like they infect you, and then so you're left for dead basically, and you get rescued, and you're so weak, and you need to be like regain all your powers and stuff. And it's like, it's ridiculous, but it kind of works. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, fair play. They explained why you're basically level 1 now. So.
I kind of wish sometimes games would just go, look, let's be real. This is a video game. We're not going to talk about this again. This is a Metroidvania. Yes, Samus has no powers again. Okay, we're not going to have some bullshit excuse. Let's move on. We won't talk about this again. And then just move on.
The only plot point I'll kind of talk about, other than that, is you had a child with one of the other party members from ELEX 1, and the child's called Dex, which I thought was funny because it's like, he's Jax, but Dex. You're in an RPG, the word Dex means you literally have an attribute that is dexterity, and your kid is called Dex. So it's pretty funny. But I talked about factions. So factions are such an important part of this game. It wasn't the first one, but this one I feel probably even more. They not only play a huge part in the side content of the game, but also the main quest of the game. So it's all about winning the trust from the people. And so you basically, there's 5 different factions in the game you can join, and you can only join one of them, but there is some weird stuff that happens. But they've each got their own massive amount of quests. So they've got their own hub area, and there's a lot of quests that you do to be able to join them, and then a lot afterwards as well. So you're not going to be able to play through all the faction quests unless you do some manual saves and stuff. But what I like is there's some factions. So for instance, you got the clerics. They're like the techno religious freaks who worship an aborted rocket that was meant to save the world before the comet crash, whatever, right? There's some cool ideas and stuff, but they were super powerful in the first game, and they've kind of lost. They've been taken down a peg. They're like living in ruins now.
They get poisoned by
they did, yeah, they
aliens?
get poisoned. But basically, to gain their trust to be able to join their faction, you have to join their rival faction as a sleeper agent and play through all their quests. And then at a certain key point, you actually have to you can actually betray them. And I really like
cool.
that.
Yeah,
I really like
really
this.
cool.
Isn't just they did some really cool stuff with that. But also, when you join a faction, it unlocks a skill tree specific to that faction. So I joined the Berserkers, and that gave me access to some of their cool spell abilities and things.
On top of your normal skill tree that I guess
Yes.
every character has?
So it's I'll explain how you level up and stuff in a second. But yeah, there's a trainer that is part of the Berserkers that taught me all those new abilities. But you have to join them first, and as you level up ranks in the faction, you unlock new stuff you can do as well. But I talk about quests, and I mentioned a bit of this last 2 weeks. But I'm revealing it, so I might as well cover some of it now. That this is why I love Piranha Bytes, the way they do their quests and the way they design their quests. And there's so many cool quests in this game. There's some that are just literally fetch quests, but when you've got a game that has hundreds of quests, you're gonna get that. But the way that they weave these quests together, so for instance, they'll make one quest without you knowing, trigger progression in another quest without you knowing it, and you're like, oh, that's why I couldn't do that thing, because it was relying on this thing to be done first, and it all makes sense. And at no point are you like, I don't understand what's happening here. It's kind of, it all links together really, really well. But what I love is that you hear NPCs talking about the outcomes and consequences of the quests you do. So, for instance, and again, this is not really spoilers, it's just talking about some quests. There was a quest where I stole a valuable logbook from one of the faction leaders, right? And I came back to talk to him, and he was talking to his guards about, hey, my logbook got stolen. You guys have to go and find this in the city. And I should actually follow the guards, and they're talking to all the different people about we have to find this and still, and that's not a quest. It's just they've added this flavor text of characters that go off and do stuff. Not every quest does this, but
yeah, that's awesome.
The care that they put into that stuff. Another one, so I took on a mission from an underground leader of the Outlaw faction, which is the scoundrels, thieves, and stuff. And it was I can't remember if it was a main quest, but it was a pretty important quest, and I completed. And hours later, I was walking through a town, and I had someone approach me, and they're like, thanks, man, you took this guy out. He was causing my life so many issues, blah blah blah, and he gave me these rewards and things just randomly. Not randomly, as in it's not part of the quest. The quest is finished. Then hours after that, I was walking through some broken down wooden structure, and a trader calls out to me, and he's like, "Hey, dude, come over here." I went over there, and he's like, that dude was my paycheck, and you killed him. What did you arsehole? And then he attacks me. And again, that's not a quest, it's just the outcomes.
That's awesome.
I just love that stuff. And that's the kind of magic of this game, is just the way they do their quests. But unfortunate thing with the quests, though, is the main campaign's pretty good until you get to the last, say, third. Then what they generally do, because at that point you're amassing power, you've connected all the factions together, and now you're having to take it to these aliens. They start chucking lots of missions that are just go here and kill 30 aliens, or go here and sometimes I got a mission where it's kill 30 enemies, and they chucked 3 of them at me at once in 3 different locations. So all it is just going and fighting enemies, and it's look, narratively it makes sense, but they keep doing it, and it just feels like I don't know if it's padding or they ran out of ideas, but it just feels because there's no other quests in the game that are that extreme in terms of go and take out this many enemies all the time. And it's just so many close together. So that wasn't great, but look, it's a black mark on an otherwise really good campaign. So I'm not going to kind of get to that, complain too much about that. But I talked about the world. So this world, the map is based on the same world as ELEX 1, but they shift the map over a bit.
What do you mean?
So
Shift
as in like literally, if you think of like a Grand Theft Auto map, assume there's not an island, or let's say it's a Grand Theft Auto map, then you shift it across like half, like I don't know, like all the way over. So half, it's crossing over half.
So you still experience some of the original world, but then it's a whole different
Exactly.
section. Okay,
But
cool.
also at the same time, there's like they redesigned it, so it's not exactly the same. It honestly feels like an entirely new map, which is great because you otherwise it's not like they're reusing it, but they do have some major locations. For instance, there's a massive location called the Fort, and in the first game, it was controlled by the Outlaws, and it was like a deserty area. And then it got taken over by between the games by the Berserkers, who are like these tree-loving people that grow plants and stuff like that. They basically terraform the world back with grass and plants and
That's
stuff.
cool.
And so they've taken over the fort, so it looks like a lush green place now. So it's really good in terms of world building. But the charm of this game outside the quest is just exploring. It's just, okay, I haven't checked this corner of the map. I'm just going to go down there and you'll find secret items, like 100%. Like there's something everywhere that hidden in every place. You'll find a random quest and things like that. And I'm not saying that's unique to this game, but it's part of that's just the fun of it. Like this is almost like a looting game, a loot RPG where you're just walking around finding stuff. And sure, I don't need all those coffee mugs, but I've got unlimited inventory space. So I'm going to pick up bloody everything. So, but yeah, and it's got a cool hub area that you go back to and all your party members and stuff. But
Can I say that still to this day shits me the most about Skyrim? Because I just collect everything and then I'm like so heavy I can't even move. I'm like, shit, I have to go drop these cups and plates that I've picked up for no reason.
That's why you get a mule. I'm sorry. That's why you get a follower to come with you.
Yeah, mine died and never came back.
Lydia, damn it.
Yeah, I don't know
So,
if that's
yeah.
an accident or not.
unlimited inventory space, which sometimes feels ridiculous and immersion breaking, but who cares? It means I can loot to my heart's
It's a
delight.
video game. Get over
So,
it, people.
One of the I got to talk about the bad stuff now.
I mentioned someone tuning into this ELEX II review. It's like, now the bad stuff, like however minutes in, like, shit, this game's great. It's 20 minutes in, there's no bad stuff yet.
The combat in this game is not good. Pre-release, much hype was given to the fact that they're improving the combat from the first game. I never thought the combat first game was great. But I never thought the combat in the Risen games wasn't that bad as well. This somehow even feels worse. I know it's not technically worse, but something about it, especially in the first like 15, 20 minutes. Honestly, this has one of the worst starts to any game I've played, and it will put so many people off from a gameplay standpoint, but also just really awkward cutscene transitions and everything. But the combat just feels wonky, like all the time. It does get better as you level your character up and get abilities, and you know it's basically combat split between like ranged combat and melee combat, and then later on, as I mentioned, spells and things like that. But basically, for most of the game, you're probably going to be using either ranged or melee, and ranged feels alright, feels pretty good. I like it. Melee feels like shit a lot of the time. And so it's unfortunate that you've got other European RPG developers like Spiders improving game to game. I really think that, because there will be an ELEX 3 unless the company goes out of business because they set it up in this one, and they seem to do like their trilogies. I think they really, really need to get someone to have a much better go at the combat in the third game. But they did add aerial combat in this, which I think is a cool addition because you have a jetpack in this game. I forgot to mention
That's
that.
cool.
And jetpack ranged combat is great because when you unlock the ability, you can hover in the spot, so I can fly up, hover, and then just rain down shotgun fire on the bastards below. But you can actually use melee in the air as well, and that feels just awkward. That never felt right.
That's so hard to fine tune. Jetpack, melee combat.
I'm not saying it was an easy job for that one, but it almost felt like they overreached on that one. I think
Sticking to their theme.
Yeah, but look, it's a shame that part of that's gameplay, right? It's a shame that feels so off at times because this game has so much else to offer. But look, I'll touch on a couple of other things before we wrap up. I love the RPG systems in this in terms of the way you build your character. It's nothing new, and I think it's fairly sense the same as ELEX I, maybe tweaked. But basically, you level up, you get attribute points, and you get skill points. So you've got 5 attributes, but those determine what equipment you can equip. Like, okay, you need X amount of strength or whatever. But it also indicates what skills you can learn. So you need 20 intelligence or 50 cunning to be able to learn this skill, but you just don't unlock it yourself. You actually have to find trainers in the world. And then you give them money as well as use the skill points to be able to learn those abilities. But the cool thing is, once you've met them, you can mark the ability you want and it will highlight all the trainers in the world and you can just go to them. So it's fine. I actually like it. Cool. It's got a narrative hook on how you build your character. I'm actually learning how to lockpick something from an actual thief, so... but yeah, so I quite like the way that they do all that side of the systems. Presentation-wise, this game looks much nicer than ELEX I, but it's not going to wow people. The character models can look rough at times. They're not horrible, but this is not a AAA game. So temper your expectations in regards to that. The world
actually looks pretty good to me, by the way.
The world looks nice. Yeah, the world looks pretty nice, and especially when you're flying over by jetpack and stuff. Music-wise, it's pretty forgettable for me, sound effect-wise as well. But the voice acting's not bad. Especially the main character is really good. They recast him from the first game. I think you're going to hear his voice a lot in this game. So I think they got that right, thank God. But in terms of performance, this game is pretty spotty. It can get a little rough. It's not horrible. It basically hovers between 30 to 60. I'm sure it's probably somewhere in between as an average.
That's a huge difference.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying it's like there's times when it definitely feels 30 and there's times when it definitely feels 60. Yeah. Does that make sense? It's like,
it makes sense now.
I don't think Digital Foundry's doing a special on ELEX II.
I'd love to see
it. I'm sure there's someone's done it. I'd say
Let's do it.
Honestly, I got used to it, but it is very inconsistent. So I would assume that PC is much better with that. So it's probably the platform to play on it in terms of technical performance, definitely.
From a grunt at it.
A couple of last things before I wrap up. The character arcs and interactions are generally great, but there is a huge issue with the game, and I can't explain it because it's a huge spoiler.
Okay.
But it leaves you with this scratching your head and just wondering, did they completely forget to finish this part of it? Because it's like such a major plot point and it impacts 2 major characters in the game and they don't talk about it to each other, like massively. Like everyone else I've seen talking about this game that have completed it, like, wait, what the hell happened? They didn't even talk about this. And the difficulty, it's a pretty tough game. I actually had to ramp the difficulty down as I went. The enemies feel like HP sponges, especially at the start of the game. So I think some people might feel that it's a bit unforgiving in that regard. Not in like a Dark Souls way, just in a way of this combat's really rough, and I'm sitting here hitting an enemy for like a minute. So that's
stupid ant.
Yeah. But look, overall, to wrap up, if you can't tell, I do love this game. I think it's fantastic. It's honestly, I played the first 3 Gothic games. It's my favorite game they've made, Piranha Bytes, and I look forward to going back to those early 3 because especially Gothic 2 is the one that people always talk about, even though they're obviously pretty old now. This game's definitely not going to win any awards, and I think that scores that you see in the 60 to 70s are pretty fair and pretty like it's a game that is very flawed.
That's what I wanted to ask. This Metacritic 74. Do you feel like that's fair or?
Oh, that's definitely fair.
Okay.
Decent.
I think that so. But to me, like I said, this won't win any awards, but because there's no awards like Best Quest Design or Best World Map Junk Looting Simulator, they're the kind of things that make this game really fun to play, but never show up on your end of year lists and stuff.
Well, they should this year.
Yes, maybe. So
yeah, that'll be our game of the year.
That'll be our game of the year.
It's
best.
It's a shame that games like this go missed, honestly, even though it's not for everyone. because people often can't look under the surface, or they can't forgive the jank of a game when there's so much else that it has to present to people.
So I appreciate my girlfriend. She looks beyond this ugly
Oh,
mug.
I thought you were saying it the other way for a second.
I thought the exact same. The way you framed that made me think you were talking about my girlfriend's like ELEX II.
The other way.
This also has probably the best reward I've ever gotten for completing a game before, ever.
Okay.
Like
A boner?
I might explain it after. I don't want to spoil it for people who
Yeah,
listen to this review.
What was it?
It's worth completing the main quest for this alone. Trust me.
Really? I
yeah, it
somehow
is.
doubt that.
Oh no, this reward is amazing.
Okay.
So look, the very final thing I'll say is Elden Ring and Starfield better impress me, because currently this game is sitting at the top of my list. But
Calm
I also
down.
haven't played.
After hearing this
no
review,
joke. This is an
Tough to
awesome
beat.
game. I loved it.
But you're saying 74 is fair. That makes no sense to me. Do you think Elden Ring's going to be 74?
No, I'd say fair for the general public.
Okay,
Not-
you
not for me.
understand it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I get
yeah.
it. For you,
So-
this is a what? A 95?
I'd say this is probably a 90 or so for me.
Okay.
But look, who would I recommend this game to? If your favorite part of Mass Effect was exploring the Citadel and completing like quests in a large hub area and just spending hours just doing quests that may just be dialogue, this game would probably be a good fit, because that is what you're doing in this game. This is also a game for patient RPG fans, because ones that favor like those branching storylines and stuff over polished gameplay or like fluid combat. So I'd say the
Or
patient
storylines
RPG
that are finished? Or...
Well, that was one exception.
Enemy
It was a
names
big,
that
it was
are
a big one,
consistent.
unfortunately. It was a big one.
Fair
But this, yeah, look, I'd say this is a patient RPG gamer's game.
Okay.
Okay. Which you definitely are. So.
Interesting. I'm now fascinated by the end of the year with our Game of the Year voting, or however we do it. You might put
There
this
is
number one.
there is no way in hell I could ever convince you guys to choose ELEX II over Elden
Well,
Ring.
No, but you might
the
vote at
end of
number
the
one.
year.
You might vote at number one. It might be
I
rank
will-
3.
yeah,
I don't
who
know.
knows?
I don't know.
And I will play.
Starfield's
Can I borrow
coming
your
out this year.
copy? If I can borrow your copy, I'll give it a crack.
Only if you beat ELEX 1 first.
That to me is a bizarre decision that
Might
they've
take a
made
while.
it so it's not easy for anyone to just jump into it. Like that's
Not-
so
it's
weird.
Not at all.
Like Horizon, I know that's a AAA game. They've got stacks of QA time, playtest time. They've got like a whole introduction to the game to get you up to speed, so you don't feel in the dark at all, because it's a direct continuation as well, right? But that does feel like a bit of a minimum to do.
If anyone's still listening to this and haven't played the game yet, I would recommend, if there's any videos, I don't know if they exist, that summarize the storyline of the first
There probably
game.
would be, yeah.
I would 100%
True. And you can
recommend
make
that
one.
before you play this. So.
I definitely do that for some games. Like I'll just to make sure I'm catching up, or like understand what the hell is going on, the context. Sometimes I find like them to be useful for games I've actually played. I'm like, oh, now I get like some of the story that went over my head. So
Or like game of some other games.
pretty much, yeah. I need to just watch a Chrono Trigger playthrough. Speaking of which, next week. So who knows what's going to be on the show? We can't make any promises anymore. It could be Chrono Trigger. It could be A Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origin review,
It could be an Assassin's Creed Ragnarok review. Who knows?
and Tiny Tina Wonderlands. Isn't that out next Friday?
Yeah, I won't be playing that till like 2024.
Oh, really?
Let's get real.
I thought you were hyped about that.
I'm hyped, but I've talked before. All Borderlands games, I'll wait until they've done like they've got all the DLC released already and stuff. So.
Makes sense.
And you know what? I've now set myself a target. I was thinking about what's going to come after Elden Ring. Like, this does have to end at some point. And I'm like, Lego Star Wars is coming out. Skywalker Saga on the 5th of April. It's a couple of weeks ago. That's a good... I feel like I might be able to beat Elden Ring and go across to that game. So
I
Could have
bought
been
the-
could have been Kirby. Could have been Kirby.
Kirby
Could've been,
was
but
not a good game.
unfortunately too easy. By the way, I played it. I get it. It was a little easy. Yes, absolutely.
Little easy. Did you get even hit?
Even on the hard mode.
Did you get hit? You go a little
Yeah, no, I
easy.
actually got hit. I got
Okay.
hit a few times, but it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't. And
heard
this
it
was on the
isn't-
hard mode because there's
Yeah,
two modes.
that was hard.
And this was on the hard mode.
I
But
read some.
maybe
I
it
read
gets harder. I don't know.
I read somewhere that like it's the early levels.
Yeah, it's definitely the early levels.
Yeah, I have a
Which-
feeling it might get harder.
like Kirby games often really do ramp the difficulty up compared to the earlier levels. But hey,
I
it's
enjoyed
still
it,
Kirby. It's still
be honest.
Kirby. So
Yeah, but I liked it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. It was funny.
You should play it. You should play it. Review it for the show.
I played the demo, but I don't.
Coming
know
out this week. Buy it.
I don't think I'm gonna fork out the full price, like $70 or whatever
gonna-
it is for it. If
he's
I'm
gonna
not
buy
that excited
Pokemon
by
again.
it.
I'm actually on the fence of buying Pokemon. Legend
Really?
of Arceus. Yeah, I don't know.
mean,
Everyone
look,
keeps on raving
like
about
it.
it.
Yeah, but people rave about a lot of dumb shit.
Jesus.
So whatever, man.
All right. Well, we
Each
don't know.
to their own.
We don't know what we're covering next week, but I'm sure it'll be something. It'll be another tier list from Swinny.
Be another big week.
Yeah, it'll be another big week in gaming, no doubt. Nice sign up, Swinny. All right, that's it for now. Bye bye.
See ya.
Laters.